live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. It has been 2 long weeks since I have said that. Was out of commission a couple of weeks ago, left the holiday special to my 2 boys over here. And last week, we always take Christmas week off. So it's been 2 weeks. I was telling Dom actually pre-show, the last time I think I took 2 consecutive weeks off in a row was when I moved out here to Iowa. That was the last time. And I think we just up and canceled. We paused the show. I don't think you guys even took over. I think we just paused the show for that couple of weeks in February while I got my act together over here. Hard to believe that it's almost a year ago. I was thinking about that over the long holiday weekend myself. But back and again, better than ever, final show of 2022. That's another thing I was thinking about this morning. I was on the radio this morning doing my show, and I was listening to the news that was on. And they were talking about the last something of the year. I can't remember what it was. But like, it got me thinking, 2020 is going to officially be 3 years ago on Sunday. Think about that for a minute. 2020 is going to be 3 years ago. It has been one hell of a decade, to say the least. But anyway, existential musings aside, we come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time, wherever you may be, however you may be listening to the show. Got Dominic Guanzon and Joe Viso back behind the microphone. I got to see a little bit of the holiday special, not a ton, but I got to see a little bit of it. How was that, you two? I was going to say, for those who might have missed it, or including myself who missed most of it, did you guys enjoy yourselves talking holiday movies couple weeks ago?
It was great. Dom and I shared our love for Christmas with the Cranks, the most amazing Christmas movie ever made.
Yes.
Yeah. I gave my best stuff, I gave my worst stuff, and Dom and I had such varied picks that it was like really fun just comparing and contrasting and talking about, like, I brought up Christmas with the Cranks and how like recently there's been a resurgence of people just liking that movie for some unknown reason.
Yeah, it's inexplicable, isn't it?
And then Dom had one that, like, to me has had a resurgence in a good way, which was Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
Jingle All the Way, like, I know as far as Schwarzenegger kid movies, it's highly rated, but yeah, Jingle All the Way has always been kind of underrated in my opinion too. That's a fun one. And like, it's one of those movies too, Jingle All the Way, that like I don't think that happens much anymore, or you don't hear about it. Like the whole craze over like the holiday toy, that's a bygone thing these days. Like even like nowadays with like rush delivery, which I think in and of itself is an out of date term, but like next day shipping, I guess you would say now, next day shipping and everything.
Hell,
like
same
it's no
day shipping now.
same day shipping. Like there's really none of that holiday panic about trying to get fucking Tickle Me Elmo at Toys R Us, which doesn't exist anymore either. There's no like last minute panic about trying to get, I don't know, Kirby the Cabbage Patch Kid or whatever the hell kids used to get, nowadays.
Dude, like I can't wait. Like I'm hoping like that like type of movie comes back, but I just can't wait till we get to the era of movies where it's like the early 2000s and we can see Blockbuster and Toys R Us in movies and be like, yep, that was my childhood. Same way that my dad looks at 80s movies and be like, yep, that Reagan sign on the front lawn, that was my childhood.
I was watching my usual Christmas movies last week and re-reviewing them. I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, Bad Santa a couple weeks ago, Santa's Sleigh last week too. And I was thinking how like, and nobody's seen I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, but the kid sees his father dressed up as Santa and Santa kisses his mother and he takes a Polaroid photo of it and he thinks that like Santa's cheating on Mrs. Claus with his mother and his mother's cheating on his father. Nowadays, the kid would have put that on. I was thinking about this. The kid would have put that video on TikTok and all the comments would have been like, no, you dumb shit. Santa's not real. Kill yourself. It would be like the most miserable shit in the world. Then the kid would be in therapy. But at any rate, it's a 1-movie show today. It's worth noting that next week and the following week, we're going to be doing our best and worst movies too. We're going to start those shows too. And those are mammoth size shows. Those shows usually run about an hour and a half. So we got to start working on we'll talk about this obviously off air, but even though we've known about it, but next week though, we'll give our top five. We'll each give our top five favorite movies of the year. And then the following week, we'll give our top five worst movies of the year. So it's kind of a nice time. It's a downtime. Really, the only notable new release in the next couple of weeks is Megan, and then you get and then you get, I think I think The Whale has expanded. I think it has expanded. It's still not out by me.
The Whale has expanded.
The Whale has expanded. Oh, Jesus.
Be nice.
That's a good one. But not to continue cracking jokes, but man, I'm gonna say this right now though. I caught that trailer before a YouTube ad yesterday night. I was watching YouTube and I caught the trailer. God, I've probably said it before on this show, and it's not like this is a new opinion. God, that movie looks slit your wrist level depressing. Like man, oh man, like I already know that movie's gonna fucking wreck me. Like I am not ready for that thing. I almost kind of hope I wait until it comes to streaming in a way, because so I can pause it and go for a walk or something. But anyway,
play with your cat or something.
Yeah, honestly, man. Speaking of which, Ebert's 21-pound ass could probably play a whale. But anyway, though, it's a one movie show today. Though we got our best and worst coming next week, and my top 10s lists come out tomorrow and Friday, respectively as well. So compiled those today. Those are all set and in the can, thankfully, because those are always arduous to write and compile for me on my end. But anyway, it's again one movie show tonight. Avatar: The Way of Water has so far grossed a little over $1 billion worldwide, so there's a good chance you've seen it. I think I'm trying to see this. Sixth fastest. Okay, I thought it was fifth. It's the sixth fastest film to cross the $1 billion mark. It took 2 weeks, 14 days to make $1 billion. The original movie crossed $1 billion in 19 days. And it's, as of now, the second highest grossing film of 2022. I would go on a limb and assume the highest is Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, wait, which one? And then I thought about oh yeah, Tom Cruise dominated the summer with just one movie.
Yeah, I would say that's probably. So I also say it's a safe bet that we are going to get Avatar 3. I would also say it's a safe bet. We're going to spend
4 and 5, already planned.
Seriously. We'll get into that almost when we talk about box office hauls and everything, because we're going to talk Avatar 2 box office, because everybody's been treating this like the Super Bowl for the last 10 years or so, was how much money Avatar 2 was going to make.
But people that I know that don't give a damn about movies like I do were like, I don't know, man. I don't think Avatar's going to make that much money. I'm just like, why do you care all of a sudden?
We're going to talk about that, though, after we're done talking about the movie. And there's so many different ways we could talk about this now. Here's a question, since we've had technically 2 weeks to see this. Dom and then Joe. Dom, when did you see this movie?
This morning at 10:30 a.m. I was gonna do 11:40, but I got scared that it would brush up against my dentist appointment at 3, and I'm glad I did. So I started the movie at 10:50, thereabouts, and that was a wise move. This is a long movie.
Yeah, if you could see this movie early, by all means do it, because it takes your day. I remember I went from work opening night Thursday, and it was, I want to say, 3:45. I didn't get out of there till 7:30. It'll take your day in an instant too. It's between this and Babylon, we got 2 movies longer than a lifespan in theaters right now. Joe, when did you see this?
Same day as you. I went Thursday night, so almost 2 weeks ago now.
That's right.
By tomorrow will be officially 2 weeks since I've been on Pandora, and I want to go back.
And interesting note, apropos of really nothing, but not something isn't everything, but it's worth noting, I think. There was, and again, this is 3:45 on a Thursday in Iowa. There were about 12 people in my showing for this movie. And you know what I thought was interesting? Not one single soul got up to use the bathroom the entire time, myself included.
That's impressive. And you know what? I didn't either. Not
one single soul. I did go up to pee during Babylon. but not Avatar. Not a single person did, and I thought that was really noteworthy.
I heard there were a lot of fluids coming concerning that movie. Or no, am I thinking of the other one with the boat that you reviewed it, Steve? The yacht.
Both movies
Oh, A
actually.
Triangle of Sadness.
Yeah.
Triangle of Sadness. And I got that AMC. I don't know if you guys know what this is. They don't really do them at the AMC's in the suburbs. I got that popcorn bucket. I got that it's like a subscription popcorn bucket. You pay like $20 a year, and then you get like $5 refills, and it pays for itself in like record time if you go to the movies way too much like I do. I got the popcorn bucket, and I was coming out of the movie, and my one buddy over there works at the theater. He was like, "How was it?" So we talked for a bit, and I told him, I said, man, I said, these 3 hour long movies, though, man, I said, Jesus, they got to start bringing intermissions back. They're going to start making movies this long again because my bladder hurts. And he goes, Steve, that's what the bucket's for. And I go, oh, man, you got to clean this thing out somehow, I guess. But at any rate, though, I rewatched the original Avatar before I saw this movie. And I recommend everybody does that before they see Avatar 2. Because not only does it refresh your memory, it's not required viewing, but it did help me really appreciate this movie in a different way too. Because like it's so tethered, Avatar is so tethered to like the experience of how you see it that it's somewhat justifiable why it feels like that movie, despite grossing over $2 billion and being the highest grossing movie ever made, feels like it left such little cultural impact. Like there's no real action figures, there's no real tangible fandom culture, not even half of what Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or Star Trek is. But it's such an experience, and that's what it was. You talk about Avatar, you talk about how you saw it, when you saw it, what you felt, what you saw it, what format you saw it. And it's kind of the same way with Way of Water. And I'm just going to say this, and the more I thought about it, the more I have thought about it since seeing Way of Water, it was really worth the wait. It was really worth the wait. I think we all, after seeing the original Avatar, kind of half expected to go back to Pandora within the next, what do you want to say, 5 years after that movie came out. I mean, it was 2014 initially. Avatar 2 was supposed to come out. But not only, just to sum up my thoughts briefly and then pass it over to Joe, not only does this movie, I think, improve on key aspects of the original, it's got a new narrative direction that allows you to experience Pandora again. Now, some of that is the passage of time, but it's also such a vast planet. It's really a planet. It doesn't feel like a country or even a continent. It is a living, breathing planet. And you're really going to be very happy, I think, a lot of people are, that James Cameron had a lot of monk-like patience in waiting for this thing, the technology, to catch up with his vision. And I think that is really my most major takeaway of Avatar: The Way of Water. What about you, Joe?
Man, look, I'm glad you brought up that whole point about how like the cultural impact that Avatar basically people that kept saying it didn't leave. There's no toys, there's no video games, no merchandise really compared to stuff like Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Harry Potter, all that stuff. Because it made me realize that like the fandom you get from this movie is what you said. It's the experience of how you saw it. I saw this thing in IMAX 3D, and I haven't seen a 3D movie I think since like the original Avatar. I really can't remember another time I saw a 3D movie before then.
I can't remember my last one either. I really can't.
And dude, the experience I had in that theater, it blew me away. I like, you know, the fact that like I felt like I was like I remember my friend Peter was telling me about this. He was like, "Oh, dude," he's like, "You're gonna have Avatar. You're gonna have Avatar depression again." I'm like, "What the hell is that?" He's like, "It's when you watch Avatar and you're depressed that you can't be on a planet like Pandora or be surrounded by cool stuff like that." I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I had that when I saw the first one because like I just was a kid. I really didn't like really realize that." But like throughout this movie, man, I mean, like anytime we're just chilling with the Na'vi in the water, just exploring their culture, everything, I'm like, dude, I'm like vibing so hard with this movie right now, man. This is so nice. I just want to stay here for like the rest of my night. I really don't want to leave the theater. Because man, it's a breathtaking experience. The movie just looks beautiful. As Steve was saying, like it's great that like James Cameron waited because god damn, this is the best movie I've seen in a like best looking movie I have seen in a very long time. This blows out every special effects I've seen probably in the last 5 years, honestly, man. There are times, yeah, sure, something might slip between the cracks and it kind of looks a little fake, but damn, man, I mean, for the most part, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is incredible. Just like the amount of work that must have gone into this between filming underwater to get the motion capture perfect for these characters when they're underwater in the movie to like just the detail on all the creatures underwater, in the air, all over the place, the even the human technology or the sky people, whatever you want to call them. Everything technical about this movie is astonishing. If this doesn't sweep at the Oscars for stuff like that when it comes to like special effects and
Technical
everything,
awards.
like
Yeah.
if it doesn't the technical awards, if it doesn't sweep at least majority of them, I'm gonna call some BS on that because honestly, the only other movie I felt like okay, technically that was a joyride of an experience for a blockbuster was probably Top Gun.
Fair. All fair points. Dom, what say you?
Uh, it's it's going to be so interesting when the history book is written on James Cameron because I looked at his filmography just of what he's directed because he's done a lot of obviously producing and stuff. It is literally some of the greatest hits of the 80s and 90s and then just Avatar. Literally, he has not directed a movie since 1997 that isn't Avatar. It's all Avatar. 1 and 2 just alone since 1997 directing, and then and then plan 3, 4, and 5 already there because it's already set in stone, supposedly by the according to the contracts and stuff. And that, and not to say he wasn't doing anything, like I said, producing and all that stuff. He literally went to the bottom of the ocean. But yeah, dude, he was he is going to be such an interesting character to study, and you can study now. But here we are in the midst of it. And this movie in particular, Avatar 2, I think I feel the same way as I did before, a little better, probably considerably better, but at the end of the day, I think I still feel the same way. There are movies that I love and respect the hell out of. There are movies I love, and not to say I don't respect them, but it's like I don't, whatever, dude, this whatever. But this is I love the movie, but whatever on the other side of it. This movie, I think, is the third option, which is well, no, the fourth option is I hate it and I don't respect it. But I land in kind of I respect the living hell out of this thing. I'm glad it was made, but it just I can't I don't know. I didn't fall asleep or anything, but it's like I don't think it affected me as much as I think it's affecting everything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like walking out of the first Avatar movie, I think everyone had similar things on. It's like, whoa, that blew me away. I actually saw it like 3 times because I had a lot more time on my hands, but I saw it like 3 times with my parents. And I was like, damn, this thing is like really, really goddamn impressive. And then, like everyone else, it just faded. Now, as someone who appreciates the lack of merchandise, the lack of hype, the lack of
Oh, sure.
this and that failed startups and comics and series that kind of licensed to hell and no one really does anything too much with it. Not to say that they can't, but that is kind of cool. But it's also interesting how, yeah, like I don't think anyone's writing any fan fiction about this even. Like even those losers, as a former one of those losers, like even those losers ain't really doing much. Now I haven't checked fanfiction.net, but I walking out of this, I'm like, this is one of the most well-made movies of all time.
Yeah.
I am in awe of it. I don't know if I even like it that much. I don't hate it. It's good, man. It's good. It's damn good. It's solid. It gets everything right in its formula. Maybe not perfect, and we'll get into that. But in terms of like it just the disparity of like being good, where everything else around it, you're thinking it should be fan freaking tastic, like end game level. It should have that kind of nerdgasm kind of level kind of thing. It should have Top Gun kind of cult around it, but no, I don't think I'm getting there, and I think we'll get into that shortly.
I was gonna say you didn't want to, or you didn't have the urge or the call to like I sometimes say this expression. You didn't have like the urge to pump your fist. It was so great walking out of the theater. Like when you know what I'm talking about, when you see a truly great movie and you like when you finally turn your phone back on and you're walking out of the theater, you're walking out of that bitch almost like you made it in a way. Like you're so pumped to have seen it. You're so pumped to have seen it. You want to tell all your friends about it.
Yes.
In my case, I can't get home quick enough to write about it. Like that's how I felt with Top Gun Maverick. That's how I felt with Glass Onion. Granted, I didn't go anywhere. That's how I felt with Cha Cha. Like that's how I felt with so many movies. Maybe I didn't feel it to the extent of Avatar: The Way of Water, but I did feel very, very satisfied. Like it was worth the wait. I'll be interested to further develop your points too. What were you gonna say, Joe? I think I cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm like, it's so weird because I do feel the same way Dom did about this movie, and I think it really just comes down to like the characters in this movie are an improvement over the first movie. Because I actually care about everybody, include like because the first movie I really only cared about Zoe Saldana's character. I was like, okay, that's about it. Like that's the only character I really enjoyed. This movie, Sam Worthington, Jake Sully, his character I think is much more likable. He's a father now. He's a disciplined father. Like he keeps his kids in line and everything. He's trying to keep his family safe and everything. He's a much more likable character and has much more to do here than I think in the first movie, where he literally was just kind of chasing that cattail, literally. But like, there's other characters too. The family they raise, I really liked all of them as well. The only issue I have narratively with this movie is that the second act, it's visually amazing, but there's not much really going on. It's mainly just people kind of going underwater, learning how to survive in Pandora and everything. Now that, like, trust me, when I say like there's not a lot going on, there's not a lot going on plot wise. There's not really like any character stuff there's not too much character stuff happening. Like there's this kid Spider who's a human that's been raised by the Na'vi. And like I thought, like, okay, let's see what this character plays into, and it kind of went in a direction I didn't expect because I didn't know who the villain of this movie was gonna be, and that took me by surprise. But he's just kind of there. The Spider, that is, not the villain. The villain I thought was actually kind of cool what they did with this this time around. I feel like the movie hasn't marketed that at all, which I thought was kind of cool. But mainly this second act, it's more of like you're just experiencing Pandora again through the family this time, and I think that's actually just probably made it more enjoyable for me than the first movie, because it was like, hey, like I actually do care about these characters based on just the first act alone. Going into this now, it's like, okay, the threat of why they need to go to this water tribe and stay with these people is real. I'm concerned for them. I want them to be safe and everything. And it's just like, okay, like, and now we get to experience this whole other different side of Pandora, and it's visually amazing, visually stunning. And just the entire time I was sitting there, I was like, damn, I'm like, this second act, if you could cut it down, I'm not even kidding, if you could cut this shit down by 20, 25 minutes and get to that climax that I was on the edge of my seat for, this probably would have been 4 stars for me. Like, I probably would have been like, okay, that was the fist pumping movie. Like, I walked out of this movie, and yeah, I texted so many people like, dude, this movie, I'm like, Avatar 2 is visually amazing. And I just kept talking about how visually it was cool. Visually it did this, and the climax. And they asked me, like, what about the characters and everything? I was just like, yeah, I'm hoping with these next 3 sequels we get at least an improvement in that area. But I did mention, like, it is an improvement in some ways from that first one. I do care about a lot more people here that, like, I do want to go see a sequel, both for the world of Pandora, because the world building here again is just amazing, but also I do want to see where these characters go next.
That's all fair. That's all fair. I think, fair and honest points there too. I will say, first things first, that Jack Champion kid who plays Spider in this, I just saw this because I Googled him, because this is like his first movie role. Oh, wow. Or one of them. This is like his
start off with.
Like, at least he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. This is like one of his first like 3 movies. You're Number right. 1. Number 2, he's gonna be in Scream 6. I just noticed that. Oh shit! Okay. He's gonna be in Scream 6. So like it was announced a few months ago, but nobody knew who he was. So now there's kind of a radar on him. Anyway, apropos of nothing, The thing, you know what I really liked about this, and I might even sing the praises of the characters a little bit more for two reasons. One, I really loved the, and I'm trying to get their name. I'm trying to get their names right. The Mecca, Reef people. I call them the Reef people.
Oh, they were cool.
They were cool. They were really cool and fascinating. I like the time we spent with them. Cliff Curtis and Kate Winslet play like the leaders of the Reef people, and they're the ones who teach you about the way of water. I want to add that. I want to say that. And number two, this is where I thought the movie sagged. Was honestly, I think the worst part of this movie is the very beginning.
Really?
I think the worst part of this movie is the very beginning. The first 20 or so minutes up until it gets to the reefs. When it gets to the reefs is when I think this movie really gets going. I don't know what it was, and I don't know if any of you guys thought this. I thought the start of this movie was clunky. I thought there was some very odd ham-fisted humor throughout the entire first few opening minutes of this thing. I thought it was not offensively, but I thought it's kind of vulgar too. It's kind of like unexpectedly vulgar and like coarse in terms of language, which really took me out of it in the beginning of it. And it almost felt like kind of like it was playing to the tune of a Marvel movie in the beginning. And I almost thought that's where the studio tried to take a little bit back from Cameron with the approach. The first 20 minutes of this movie, the best way I can describe it is clunky.
I actually rethinking about it. God, it's been 2 weeks. I should have saw this movie twice. Damn. Thinking about it again, I do actually think you're right. Because, like, I don't know about the first 20 minutes. Because, like I said, I was enjoying it. But I remember the first 10. They were just throwing not plot, but they were just throwing exposition at you left and right. It's like, here's Sigourney Weaving's character. Here's the villain. Here's the other villain.
And now all of a sudden they got a whole ass family. Now all of a sudden they got a whole family, and it's like you're trying to keep them straight. I thought that on top of it made it really clunky.
You know what else wasn't helping too? And it like it wasn't really the humor, I guess, that was getting, but it was the dialogue at first. Like hearing these like these people who have never been on Earth before be like, "What's up, bro? Like, how you doing?" and everything. I was just like,
to be fair, to be somewhat fair, you're right.
Kiss my ass. Like it's understandable for Spider. Like it's understandable for Spider to say those things, like to a degree, because of who raised him. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, hearing Jake Sully's Navi children say "kiss my ass" just doesn't feel
here's
right.
The thing. They're his kids, though. They're his kids.
That is true.
Random natives' kids, that not the guy from Earth who transplanted himself or whatever.
That's true.
But if it was anyone else, that would be weird. I mean, I'm not gonna fight on that subject too much because it does commit, I think, one. I don't want to say sin. I'm not gonna go there, but one small thing that annoys me in movies is where the opening frame is so important in a movie, in my opinion. It establishes so much. And it kind of did that thing where it's just, it just did a montage of like pretty places. And it's like, this feels like a transition from one scene to the next, but no, this is literally your opening 10 seconds. That's a somewhat minor thing, but it's actually kind of indicative how, I don't want to say they rushed the beginning because this movie is 3+ hours long, but it does kind of feel like that. And I think it's like, are they trying to like get to another plot point, but they didn't have another movie in between? So they just kind of, it's an 8-year time skip in real life. So how much of a time skip do they have in the universe? It almost feels just as long. So it's like they have to reintroduce everything again. I don't know. I'm curious to see for someone who watches 1 and then 2 consecutively if that feels too much. But honestly, this movie, the first movie, if you want to get super reductive, this is almost like disrespectful in a way. But if you want to get reductive, it's like, it's just space Pocahontas, right? With blue people instead of brown people.
Or Dances with Wolves in space.
Sure, Dances with Wolves. Right. This one,
I think the Dances with Wolves comp is better than Pocahontas, probably. Even though there is a lot of Pocahontas going on, though.
I need to watch probably Dead Wolves, like actually, because I've seen it in bits and pieces and really young, but I know the basic plot. But yeah, it's this one kind of feels very similar, but with some added twists of like, oh, this thing here, particularly with the antagonist. But at the heart of it, it's still that same formula, which is okay to do, but the problem is it kind of cycles a lot too much where it's like, oh, okay, the humans are back and they're colonizing capitalists themselves again, and here's the Marines who are overly bad guys. Oh, who's the main antagonist? Oh, it's a really familiar face. And it's like, damn, this feels awfully familiar. And it doesn't help that just a month ago there was another movie about underwater blue people. We were going to touch on this no matter what, because we alluded to it during that movie review we did. But Black Panther 2, it's like, if I had to compare Avatar to Black Panther, obviously visually, no comparison. Avatar it's just an infant versus Manny Pacquiao. Like, there's no contest.
Blows it out of the proverbial water.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
No. And that's even like with Black Panther actually being probably the best visually Marvel movie in a while too.
One of the best, yeah. But Black Panther, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like because you can relate to it more because it's it's literally humans, but also they have rap and hip hop. They have all these cool things, more relatable things. That is part of it. But I think to cut to the very heart of it, it's almost like two opposite ends of a spectrum. You have this one, it's an epic. Avatar is an epic. Every single one of these movies is going to have the word epic, and you cannot overuse that word because a lot of movies try to be epics, but they just don't get to that level that Avatar clearly just obviously does. Whereas Black Panther also claims to be an epic. The first one, I would say, even more so. But the new Black Panther, it's very Marvelized, obviously, but it's at the heart of it. It has, I don't know, more endearing characters. I think, again, potentially being reductive there, but I think that summarizes it the best. If I have to do one last comparison, and I'll stop with the comparisons in the last couple minutes here that we have. I'm never going to stop talking about Star Wars Andor, because I love that series. And if there's anything that got me to fist pump, it is honestly multiple episodes of Andor well paced throughout that whole series. I freaking love that show. And it has similar themes of fighting oppression. In Avatar's case, it's more colonization, a classic Pocahontas Dances with Wolves story, whereas Andor is more, it's actually a lot more relatable with today and a lot more about, under direct urbanized occupation. But in both of those sense, they have a similar theme of fighting. You can throw a bunch of things to capitalism, empire, whatever, this and that. But the difference between those two, Andor and Avatar, is the fact that it's just tighter. It's tighter and it has more compelling characters. Could you tell me the difference between the two sons other than their main themes? Thematically, you get it. Like, oh, here's one son that is like, here's another son that isn't like. Is there anything beyond them in that? I don't think so. Narratively, they do in Avatar. I'm talking about Avatar, right? Narratively, they do the same thing. Narratively, they fulfill their role. But could you really expand on it beyond that? I'm not sure. The little kid was there, the baby of the group, the Sigourney Weaver voiced character, whose mother is Sigourney Weaver. That's an interesting take, but does she serve too much of a function other than to potentially fill a role in Avatars 3, 4, and 5? I don't know. It doesn't seem as fleshed out in a movie that's 3 hours long. I threw a lot there, so I don't know how you guys want to respond to that.
Right up against a break, too. Nice job. No, a lot to chew on there. A lot of thoughtfulness there, too. We will expand on it here. We'll be back in about 60 to 90 seconds after this annoying Zoom-sponsored intermission. Again, first show in over a week now, over a week's time, and my first show after a 2-week hiatus. This is Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. We are coming back talking Avatar: The Way of Water. We got to give our final thoughts on it here in a little bit, and we are also diving into some box office discourse. Don't go anywhere. At least 30 more minutes of Sleepless
Rice
with
plant,
Steve
this is for
you.
you. Read till the end.
What the hell was that?
We are back. It is Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. Dominic not only went on a 5-minute TED Talk to lead us into the break, but his computer decided to voice, and some creepy robot broad decided to
Megan!
give us a monologue as well. Megan, made an early cameo on the damn show. Man, oh, show that scared the crap out of me. You know, it's like that old, you know how you always hear things rustling or something, when you're in the shower and you can't do nothing about it. It's I always think to myself, it's damn it, I hate when burglars try to break into my apartment. Or they always try to break in when I'm in the shower. But anyway,
Yeah, for real.
Anyway, though, good hell, that scared me.
So sorry, I hate pre-roll ads or automatic ads. They're the freaking worst.
Man, oh man. Anyway, here's the one thing I will say. I don't know if it's directly related to Dom's point, but it kind of is with the characterization, okay? Because they did give us a whole damn family over here. It was pretty clear that Neytiri and Jake were busy in the bedroom, not gonna lie, and over the last 8 years, because Jesus Christ, man, they got a whole litter of kids now that they introduced right in the beginning of Avatar 2. Having said that, though, you know what won me over about this movie, though? And I hadn't thought about it until I sat down to write the review. Two real things won me over. The 1 point's quicker. I'll go there first. Number one, and I think Marvel and DC have conditioned us in the wrong way. Have conditioned us to not to expect this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This movie felt like anybody could die.
Yeah.
Because you got 3 more movies already in the pipeline. There's clearly a future direction for this. This felt like anybody, even Scully himself, could die at any moment in this.
Scully and Mulder.
Yes.
Sorry.
I legit thought
Sully, excuse me.
That's also why that climax I think works as good as it does, because I'm just hey man, look, I don't know where contracts are at with these people. All right, I know he ain't playing Iron Man for the next 6 movies. All right, Jake Sully can die here, or Neytiri can die here. I don't know, dude.
So that's number one. That's one thing that I realized, that that's why this was so thrilling, was that it felt like anybody could die in this thing. Number two, I think the thing that made The Way of Water, in my opinion, an improvement on the original Avatar in this facet. This is the biggest facet. I mean, the visuals I think are improved, but that's not the only reason, as great as they are. I think the pacing of this movie is downright exceptional for the most part. Now it's a 3 hour and 15-minute movie. There are some ebbs and flows, but I will say is that Cameron and the other two writers, Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver, they know how to raise tension for like extended stretches of time. And then they follow it with quieter stretches that almost evoke, in conjunction with the water, this like pleasant calmness that like takes it down a notch. This movie is not one giant fluctuating ascending crescendo, which is really nice. Really nice. You feel the influence of more than just Cameron working here, as I mentioned earlier, with I think what some of that like quippy humor in the beginning was. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's always a definitive bad thing, because I do think that with a few more voices in here, this movie feels a lot more balanced, and it feels paced like what it is, a very well-made, downright outstanding at times epic. And I think the pacing has a lot to do with this movie's success.
Despite that, like, I was like mentioning earlier, yeah, like you could cut out 20 minutes of this and everything, and I mentioned like, oh yeah, like I felt the length. Pacing wise, though, I never felt bored. I was like, yeah, we're moving on to something visually impressive, actually narratively interesting, despite like, the shortcomings this movie has in the writing department. And of course, just other parts of this movie as well that just made me go, you know what, for 3 hours, like, I was entertained the whole way through. It's hard to do that because, coming to the end of this year, man, we've sat through like 2.5 to pushing 3 hour movies that like me walking out of one going, okay, that one, like, despite being 3 hours, I was entertained the whole way through. That's impressive to say, especially with a sequel that I had, like, really nothing, like, going into. I was just like, yeah, I mean, I'll go see it because we have to review it. But it's like, other than that, it's like, I got no baggage with this. I mean, I got nothing to ride with this movie. But now it's like,
I said in my review of it, not to steal your thunder, I said in my review of it at stevepulaski.com that, like, I didn't muster much excitement for this thing until that first trailer dropped in theaters, because Avatar 2 was such a ephemeral idea.
It was like the
for so many years
of movies.
Yeah, it really
the Duke Nukem Forever over here of movies. It's an idea for so long, and we didn't even have a title, and we didn't have a poster up until like the last like year or two. Is then when we finally started to get some concretization with this thing. So I didn't have much anticipation for it up until like maybe 6 months ago.
And to give mentioning what you said, I like we talked about this when we reviewed Doctor Strange. When I was in theaters, despite everybody being like, who cares about Avatar 2? When that trailer popped up, no one knew that trailer was coming out before that movie. That theater erupted with like a gasp of like, it's here. Like
that was such a great That was such a great W for movie theaters too, because they didn't put that online right away.
Oh, they did.
That was great to see in a theater.
The first thing I said coming out of that movie was, dude, I saw the Avatar 2 trailer. I was like texting people like, guys, it's coming out. Like, it's a real movie.
The dream is real.
Dom, anything to add on those points?
Honestly, not really. There's a lot to go through here. It is like I said earlier, I respect the hell out of this movie. I am probably going to be probably the lowest rating, lukewarm. But I still enjoyed it. It is solid. I respect it for not only what it is, but just for what it's doing in the industry, and the fact that this dude, James Cameron, just gets to do this from now on and isn't as strung back by the studios. A complete contrast with like things like Marvel and Star Wars. It is incredible to see someone like this, and I hope he can finish his vision. It's like, damn, you have 3, 4, and 5 like 3 is in post-production, 4 is filming, 5 is probably well on its way, and like
back too.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's not forget too, and this is the thing, you hate to bring this up, but like, and it's on my mind even more now.
I was gonna finish with this, but you finish now. Yeah,
I started. I didn't mean if you want to continue.
is James Cameron going to see this to the end? Like,
And that's
is he going to
ding. And it's the same reason why I bring, and I was the only person on this show to like Cry Macho last year. It's the same reason I approach like every Clint Eastwood movie of the last like 5 years with like a degree of lean forward there too. And and because it's on my mind now, I'm seeing The Fabelmans tomorrow, like with Steven Spielberg, and like. We're getting to the point now. James Cameron's 68, which is still, relatively young given how old people can live nowadays.
Considering how rich he is, that's pretty spry.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty spry. Yeah, absolutely. And but it's the same thing with Spielberg too now. And it's the same thing. It's been this way for Clint Eastwood for like, I feel like 10, 15 years now, where it's like, we're getting to the point now where like, as sad as it is to think, every new movie they make could definitely be their last.
Yeah.
Could definitely be their swan song, whether officially or unofficially.
Fabelman's especially. Like Fabelman's, like if that's his last one, that would
Fabelman's
too
feels
perfect.
like a Twilight. I mean, here's the thing. So did The Mule for Eastwood,
Right.
which it should have been. The Mule, he will, I never say never. He will not make a better finale than The Mule. He will not make a better finale than The Mule. And I liked Cry Macho, but it was no Mule in terms of a legacy picture. But like, that's the thing I worry about with these future Avatar sequels, because I'm going to tell you right now, I got $100 right now that says Avatar 3 is not coming out in 2024.
Really?
I don't think it is. I do not think it is. I'm not saying it's going to come out in 2036, but I'm not saying it. I don't think it's coming out in 2024.
It's hard to say.
I challenge you to that bet. It's recorded here live. I think it is coming out in 2024, but I think Avatar 4 is the one that's going to be delayed.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
I think, and I'm actually not. I'm not taking a bet, but I do think.
All right. I'm gonna make a post-it note. Go on.
I do think that the rate at which they make these movies will increase. Like they certainly they're getting better at this. Not to say that they're bad at it, but like the streamline has the pipeline has been streamlined, so to say, right? I would think so in a kind of like a kind of like a Back to the Future 2 and 3 were, or Infinity War and Endgame were. But of course, in Avatar time, in James Cameron time, that's still going to be 2 years. So we'll see, and then. There is also things like the global anything situation to think about, which is actually going to be our part of our next topic here. But I think Steve, do we want to close out here? Because
we can definitely do that. I will let you, Don. I just put my post-it note on there. I'm going to be staring at that $100 bet post-it note now for the next 2 years. FYI, Joe. That's hanging on my desk wall over here. So just FYI, I do not forget about that. And we both have each other's Venmo, so this is exciting. Moreover, though,
I'm gonna be harsh and say 3 out of 4 stars. Like harsh by what I think. Yeah, that comes
off as harsh, doesn't it?
It comes off as harsh. But it's like, I really don't see myself liking this movie any more than I do now. I will probably walk away with more critiques than anything. Especially, when all the YouTuber essays come out and all that stuff, which I do enjoy. That's like another part of the fun for me. But at the heart of it, did I enjoy it? Yeah, it was a solid ass movie. Good movie. It knows what it's doing and it's doing it right. It's an artist, many thousands of artists working hard on this project and this vision, united under this vision, and to see this world, this universe, to lack of a less get killed off in any of the, or you come back as a ghost, right? You come back as something else in the future installments, because this is a lifetime gig for you. Some of these actors, like Stephen Lang, I don't know if he's doing anything else right now, but and good for them, honestly. So 3 out of 4 stars.
Okay, I was gonna say, can you give your rating one more time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed, Joe, you can take it, and I'll close thoughts with Avatar 2.
I mean, despite you saying you would have the lowest rating, I'm there with you. It's 3 out of 4 stars with me. I feel like I'm in, even though it's 3 out of 4 stars, it's like a higher
3 point.
Yeah, let's say it like that. Yeah, enthusiastic 3 out of 4 stars. Yeah, I mean, to me, you brought up so many good points, Dom, as to why like I had shortcomings with this movie, but overall, I didn't let it. I let the just experience of the movie just kind of take me over. Like I was like, look, I'm gonna be in this theater for 3 hours. I better just get used to chilling with these people in the water and everything. And like I think if you go see this movie and like I'm not coming at you, Dom, when I say this. I'm just pointing at the camera to the audience, the chat. Um, if you go see this movie, if you haven't already, just go in. I'm not even telling you to turn your brain off, but just literally like just sit there and just enjoy the ride, enjoy the experience of learning a culture, being on a planet with all these alien creatures and everything. Really, just like enjoy the artistry of making that world come to life. Of course, yeah, pay attention to the plot, characters, and all that stuff because that's probably what's gonna make you want to go back and see part three. But for me, I mean, it's 3 out of 4 stars. I'm hoping now, like with 3, 4, and 5, narratively writing improves, characters just improve with each movie, just like it did here. To where like the point Don brought up, which is like, yeah, I did think Black Panther: Wakanda Forever was better than this because Black Panther 1 nailed its characters, that world, in one movie. I came out of that movie going, damn, not only do I love Wakanda, but I love those characters. Avatar, that first movie, I came out going, all right, I mean, like, that world was cool, but, like, I didn't care about anything else. This time around, I'm coming out saying, okay, I enjoyed those characters, and I'm still in love with this world. Please, with 3, 4, and 5, raise the stakes, do whatever you gotta do, like, narratively, and just ace it again with these visuals because dude, this will be a great franchise to always come back to between everything else, comic book movies, Star Wars, all that stuff, Harry Potter. It's just nice that we have like, hey, this is actually a brand new franchise we're actually like watching play out from the start now again, basically.
Very well said. Here's what I will say. The two things I wanted Avatar: The Way of Water to do for me the most, it did them, and it did them valiantly. And these two things are this: make me think that this movie was worth the 14-year gap, which it did, number one. And number two, and this might have even been the bigger one, get me excited for Avatar 3. Get me excited to stay on this ride through Pandora.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to report it did both, alongside some absolutely spellbinding special effects. We didn't really get into the nitty-gritty of things, but let me tell you might be my favorite scene in this whole damn thing. My favorite scene might be when they're on that whaling vessel during the harpoon session. That might be my favorite scene of the whole thing because there is like, it's such a perfect contrast between like the harmonious relationship the reef people and the Na'vi people have with nature and the very villainous and very inhumane relationship humans have with that when they're shooting the harpoons at the whale and trying to get it to rise above seawater, and then the pain of the calf or whatever baby, whatever the hell that thing was, whatever its offspring is known as, seeing its mother be killed, and then the reef people reacting to seeing the dead whale in the water. The Tulkun, that's what it is, the Tulkun. That scene alone, in my opinion, was worth the price of admission, just for how much it contextualized and how damn heartbreaking yet amazing it was there. And there's a lot more that I could talk about in this movie. I wrote a hell of a long review on it, though. I'm looking forward to Avatar 3. I'm buying what they're selling now going forward. It's 3.5 out of 4 stars for me. I will say it did not make my top 10 list, and it did not make an honorable mention, but it's not far off. If I did a top 20 of the year, probably be 14 or 15.
For me too. Like if I did like a top 20, it'd probably be like 19 or 18 on there.
I usually do top 10 and then 3 honorable mentions. So that there you have that. There you have Avatar 2 or Avatar: The Way of Water, our thoughts. Now
the parallels in anti-fascist rhetoric in Star Wars Andor and Avatar is really compelling, and I think
I love you guys. I missed you. I missed the hell out of you, man. I really.
Oh, dude, you're lucky I didn't go into like random freaking theory and manifestos during this whole thing. Like I only said
that's punishment for making him watch Blue's Clues over Thanksgiving. Punishment for making him watch Blues
That was
Big
not
City
a
Adventure.
bad movie.
Oh man. Well, okay. Well, having said that, though, I just updated the schedule like 20 minutes ago, just to let you know we are going to see. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for it yet, Dom or Joe. I think you would have. Just to let you know, come February, I am marking us down for 80 for Brady.
No!
Just to let you know.
Why?
I'm marking you down for 80 for Brady. God, oh, Dom, you look confused. Watch the trailer. That's your homework.
80 for Brady is an upcoming American sports comedy film directed by a fictional account of four senior friends who take a road trip to Houston to watch their hero Tom Brady and the New England Patriots play. Get the hell out of here.
Tom
What
Brady,
the hell?
executive producer. This is the most disgusting vanity project I ever seen. No wonder Giselle divorced his ass.
Sally Field, Rita Moreno,
Rita Moreno in it too.
Lily Tomlin.
I mean, great cast. Don't get me wrong, but
It is a great cast.
Amazing cast.
Guy Fieri's in it too.
Oh, this is the best cast ever.
Dude,
Rob
wait,
Gronkowski's in it. Yep. So we are seeing 80 for Brady. I got it on the calendar. Comes
Hold
out
on
in
a minute.
February.
I just realized something. Why can't we review Megan? But two, that movie Operation Fortune with like Jason Statham, Aubrey Plaza, Hugh Grant, like that movie still hasn't come out. Where like they like pay a dude they pay an actor to go like on like a drug lord cartel's like yacht and like pretend to like be like his biggest. It's literally that Nicolas Cage movie, but like played more serious, I think. It's also Guy Ritchie's new movie. I've seen trailers for this since 2021, dude.
You know, I just vaguely remember this thing now. I totally forgot about this. Yeah. This was a COVID casualty.
Yeah, this thing has been like I saw trailers for it in 2021. Like Jesus.
There's a lot of these movies that got completely lost during the pandemic. Like there's a movie called Rise with Sterling K. Brown that still hasn't come out. That's been delayed for like 2-3 years. There's that movie Alphas about the killer whales directed by the guy who did Final Destination 5 and Into the Storm. There's no word on that one either. There's a lot of these that Unbreakable Boy movie's another one, that faith-based movie with Zachary Levi about the kid that like had like easily shatterable bones, as poor of a description as that is. That was supposed to come out in March. There's no word on that thing. I think people are under a gag order about that movie for God knows what reason. There's a lot of movies. I forgot about this guy. I'm also not a big Guy Ritchie fan, but like, yeah, I forgot about this thing. It was even supposed to come out. Holy shit. Anyway, but yeah, 80 for Brady. We're seeing it next month. Along with February, gonna be banger, man. February's gonna be a banger month between 80 for Brady and Cocaine Bear. Oh my god, I can't wait. Anyway, let us move forward with Avatar, because Avatar's making billions of dollars all around the world now, except for China, which is kind of the crux of this whole story. So Avatar had a hell of a Christmas weekend, to say the least. First things first, just speaking in a numbers basis over here, Avatar opened with, what was it, 140 million in the United States. I think it was 140 million, I want to say.
I believe so. Yeah.
Opening weekend, which was again a hell of an opening weekend for the movie. It wasn't really a terrible surprise. I figured this thing was going to do well too. But yeah, 140 million opening weekend. It made about 95.5 million, I want to say, over Christmas weekend. That includes the Monday holiday as well, or the Monday day that was mostly observed. So it's making a lot of money. It's already grossed $1 billion with a B dollars so far. Movie cost about anywhere between 350 to 460 million to make. And if it's on the upper end of that budget, it is the most expensive movie of all time, especially because, for the longest time, up until like relatively recently, I think Pirates of the Caribbean 3 was the most expensive movie ever made. And now I think it's safe to say that Avatar 2 probably cost more money given how long it was in production too. Now, the story of this, and I didn't even throw this over to Dom so he can explain it and shut me up for a minute. Avatar 2 is technically a bomb in China, which I think surprised a lot of people if you don't know at least a little bit about what's going on with China now with the ongoing COVID outbreak again. But I think there was probably quite a lot of hope that this thing could do very well in China, and that has not been the case so far. It made $80 million in its first 8 days, and that's about a 78% drop on its second Friday, which is steep for a movie of this caliber. But it also shows that Top Gun Maverick This is worth noting too. Scott Mendelson brought this up. Scott Mendelson of The Wrap now. He's no longer with Forbes, FYI. So Scott Mendelson of The Wrap.
Your muse.
Yes, indeed. Top Gun Maverick made over $1 billion without China. The Batman made $770 million. 20 million came from China, which is pretty incredible there if you think about it. So without the help of the Middle Kingdom, these movies are still doing pretty well. I think the biggest part of this story that nobody's talking about is that James Cameron movies, it's not all about opening weekend. It's about opening weekend for Marvel and DC. That's kind of what we've been trained, that if a movie doesn't make its money back or most of it its opening weekend, it's a flop. That's flawed box office thinking, especially when you're dealing with James Cameron, because James Cameron movies fucking linger.
They do.
They stay.
Titanic.
They stay for months. And in a day and age now, that's impressive, given there's about 2 new releases a week on average. That's impressive in this day and age. I fully expect Avatar 2 to remain in theaters throughout all of the winter at the very least. I think this thing is going to stay in theaters probably until March, April. I think it's got that kind of staying power. I don't see anything that's a legit threat to it. And I also think it could get to a point like Top Gun Maverick, like Frozen, where by March and April, it can survive on repeated viewings alone.
Yeah.
Because by a certain point with Top Gun Maverick, it was people seeing it again. That at a certain point, that's what happens. And movies generally don't stay around in theaters long enough to warrant that these days. Not in this day and age. I think Avatar: The Way of Water is going to be more than fine. And I think it probably skips itself to $2 billion. I think that's at least the high upper threshold of $1 billion, like 1.8, 1.9. I can absolutely see this thing grossing $2 billion. We'll go Dom, then Joe to send us home. Just some box office analysis in your opinion. We'll go Dom first.
I do love how, you've got one of the giants in the field, Marvel, just, hustling, doing its thing, working hard every day. Kevin Feige hitting that leash on all the VFX artists, making moves, all this stuff, a new movie every month, new show every day, or, it feels like. And then Avatar, just this lumbering ancient, this juggernaut from the stars above, just out of nowhere, RKO out of nowhere. Yeah, dude. And like everyone makes room for it. That's the best part. It's like they got the hell. If you thought this was gonna bomb, you should have told that to all its competitors that moved the F out of the way, made room for Avatar 2. But yeah, dude. Going back to the China situation, yeah, it is interesting how for the past 2 decades, we have gotten so used to movies, the movie industry treating China as the cushion, as it's like, okay, you know what? This didn't do so well here. Kind of technically flopped, technically bombed. You know what? That's all right. We'll make our money back in the China.
That's the whole reason they even flirted with a Warcraft sequel in the first place. Remember how bad Warcraft did in America? I think World War Z did pretty well in China too.
Yeah, I think so too. I liked Warcraft, but and it's funny how like Top Gun Maverick is like the most jingoistic American thing ever. Just at least in aesthetics alone, the first one particularly. But still, yeah. The reason why it's not doing so well in China, the Hollywood, was it Hollywood Reporter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It said that COVID related issues, which is true. They are having a massive outbreak, reemergence of COVID due to a multitude of factors. One of them being that they half-assed their own vaccine, just bum rushed it, and they're too prideful to take it back or take our vaccine. But that's a whole thing. But almost just as importantly is the fact that the massive political instability. Like it is really unstable in China right now. Who knows for sure? Maybe, China being China, they'll crack down on it and then things will be back to normal in a year or two, whatever normal there is. But I don't know. It's really up in the air. However we feel about America right now, they're feeling that tenfold in China. So the reports go. Again, take it as you will. check your sources. But yeah, and a lot of it was accelerated as a result of COVID. So it's not just COVID; it's protests, political instability, power moves being done on the highest levels and on the lowest levels and the middle levels, just all over the place. It is very unstable in China. So I don't think it's going to, particularly with the lockdowns in place. And let me tell you, lockdowns in America, it's baby shit compared to China, which is
Yeah, it
like,
is.
oh, okay, the Chinese lockdowns. Okay, this is what actual oppression really looks like, where you will starve to death in your apartment. And again, I don't want to rant about the whole situation there, but just know that it is unstable, and China, I don't think, is going to be very reliable, at least for the next 5 years. It's hit or miss. Maybe it will, maybe it won't be, but it is no longer the safe bastion that it was for decades for Hollywood. So Hollywood accounting, it definitely is taking that into account now. So it's like, well, what market do they play into? Not Russia. So it's like, I don't know. Where will they go next? India? I don't know, but it's going to be very interesting to see where they go. Or maybe China recovers in 5 years. But man, I don't know. Joe, what do you think?
You're on the clock too, Joe.
Boy.
Do we lose them?
I think you hit the mic. I think you hit your mute
Oh.
button by accident, Shorty. There you are.
All right. I did. Look, I'll take
China got to him. No.
At least no creepy ass voice came out of his speaker.
I'll say this with this whole thing. I mean, yeah, like I think having blockbusters like Top Gun Maverick this year as well as Avatar is great for the future of the movie industry, because if you go on film Twitter every day, it's like Marvel's being crucified on crosses, whichever like film Twitter you go to, and like just comic book movies in general, a lot of movies in general that are being made today. Not that I'm agreeing with them 100%, but I do see where some people are coming from. There's a reason why Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, all these directors are speaking out about how stuff is being done today. It's for good reason. It's because it's a lot of stuff is being pumped out really quick. There's no real artistry to most things now, because everybody's trying to be like Marvel, everybody's trying to be like Star Wars. There's so much going on. It was great that we got two blockbusters back to back this year, just within the same year, that took their time making their sequels. Not only that, but just stayed and lingered and made a shit ton of money. And the same thing is going to happen with Avatar. Because you ain't going to go... This thing is going to stay in Dolby theaters and IMAX theaters, all of the specialty screens. This thing's staying in there about till Ant-Man comes out, I think. So, because, you ain't going to see Megan in Dolby. You ain't seeing 80 for Brady in fucking IMAX. That's for sure. So, like, it's going to linger there. It's going to get its repeated viewings with that format. It's going to get its repeated viewings or first-time viewings throughout all of January when people were too busy during the holiday season to go see the damn thing. This movie, like, it's just great to see that, like, we are getting a movie that, despite it's not doing well in China, and I guess, as we were talking about, they were kind of, like, hoping that it would, it's still going to make a killing here. And it's great to see that stuff like Top Gun Maverick is also making a killing here, because, yeah, it's, like, China being the cushion for studios, I think made studios just not give a damn when making movies, because they just knew, like, well, if we hit these points in a movie to where we got even movies that had different scenes entirely and plot points in China compared to the US, because they were like, hey, we got to make the movie like specifically for that audience because we can make a ton of money in China and everything.
Acquiesce content too.
Yeah, Kong Skull Island literally had a whole character that in our version gets like 2 lines. In China, she has her own storyline in that movie. It's just like, okay, that's weird. Why not just make one movie? So yeah, it's weird, talking about the whole thing that's happening in China, because, I'm getting, even though, like Steve said at the beginning of the show, 3 years ago will now be 2020. I'm praying to God it stays that way. We don't get another 2020 next year. Knock on wood. Because I really do feel like with these two movies, Avatar and Top Gun, that, like, we're going in a different direction now, I think studios are seeing with movies. I think with, like, the kind of decrease with Marvel box office runs where it's like, yeah, that initial thing is great, but it's not as good as like the earlier movies, and even the lingering box office isn't that good. And even with like stuff like Star Wars, other than Andor, to give Dom credit, he is right. But stuff like Star Wars, which is again another property that's owned by Disney, even though Avatar is too, but being pumped out a ton with shows, and they had to put movies on hold because they messed up that bad with the movies, and we're just trying to get a movie each year of Star Wars. I'm hoping now that these two movies set a precedent for for the studios to be like, oh, we could take our time with sequels, make them big, make them long, and just like have enough here that like will satisfy an audience to come. And it's like, just do it that way, because I think we're better off with it. We get something of quality, and they get a ton of money. I'm really hoping with that. The lineup that we have for 2023 is looking promising as well, with stuff like Cocaine Bear and all these other actual original movies coming out, despite the fact it's also in a sea of sequels. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how next year plays out, and the following years after we got two movies like this.
To your point of like hoping to adopt the Avatar model, I hope so too. I really hope so too. But keep in mind, I think James Cameron is more so the exception than a future rule, because he has been around Hollywood for so long, and he was able to get a pedigree of consistent hits.
Yeah.
And then like that also, and then you have like someone like Zack Snyder, who they kind of did do that. It's like, oh, we trust you, Mr. Snyder, with the vision of our DC universe, and then that just kind of did not work out at all, which is not just his fault. There's a multitude of reasons why. There's a lot, but he is part of that problem, and it's like, maybe we shouldn't have. So it's like, is the Marvel way the way to go? But it's who's to say, right?
And what I want to say to that too is that I'm not asking like the James Cameron way of like taking 10 years to make a sequel and everything. No, sure. God, no. And like, I do want my sequel within a reasonable amount of time. 5 years.
But maybe if we do what Bob Iger says he wants to do, which is give more freedom to the creatives.
That is,
this and that, and it's like,
is that like, you give obviously more time to make the sequel so they can really develop things out, just like they did with Top Gun. Like that was made within like I think 6 or 7 years, and then they just held on to it because they knew this was a possession. That this movie was going to be big. I'm really hoping,
and Paramount needed it too.
And Paramount needed it as well. But I'm hoping, with directors that were these new and upcoming directors, like Manigault with the new Indiana Jones movie. All these directors who are like, that have made franchise movies or all these movies, and they have like such great visions. Hell, Edgar Wright, all these directors that I'm just kind of hoping it's like, if you're going to give them a franchise, a sequel, or you're going to put them in your next installment of a long-running franchise, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, whatever, let them have the cushion of, hey, you have freedom of control here. Of course, studios are going to have to like interject and give like their 2 cents and everything, but really giving them a lot of cushion to do what they want and take their time with it, because I would love to see that happen, to where it's like, man, not every month I'm getting like the next superhero movie from Sony, DC, Marvel, everything. Because as much as I do love that stuff, I mean, guys, I'm not even kidding. When I went to go see Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I saw 6 comic book movie trailers before that movie, and I was like, oh dear God. I was just like, it really is an epidemic.
And I bet you didn't see a Blue Beetle trailer.
Nope.
You got that one too.
Oh my God, too much blue. And I'm saying that.
And that's
tangentially related.
Sorry, and that is with the Spider-Verse trailer, which I'm excited hell for that movie. But again, it's just like, dude, shit, I just had Spider-Man last year.
There's nothing worse than being over inundated with not only with one genre, but a genre where there's actually good shit in there, and it's actually a growing number. It's like, God damn it, Spider-Verse actually looks good, and I love the first one. Let me just say, tangentially related, I do wonder what it was like to work in the VFX department, CGI department specifically, for this movie, for Avatar. Like, and compare that to Marvel, and like, it was, how much crunch was there? Was the load like? Any journalist that does that, they should deserve a.
I would love a documentary on the process of all that.
I would too.
Astounding.
Those stupid we get the stupid ones we get on Disney for like the Marvel movies and Star Wars and everything. Get one for Avatar on there.
You know they have footage too. Like that's the thing that bugs me when they don't release crap like that is like they have footage. There's like outtakes. And in the day and age where like physical media doesn't matter as much anymore, like sales and stuff, like gone is the art of the fucking commentary too. like there used to be I don't think people remember this or don't realize this. Like this is totally random. They used to do back when the Simpsons box set seasons used to come to DVD. Matt Groening used to do commentary episodes for every fucking season.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the man who went on a 5-minute rant warning me about the clock. Anyway, that's our show, Sleepless with Steve. Good to be back. Next week, we got our top 5 favorite films of each of us of the year 2022. I'm looking forward to it. Highlights will be posted on this YouTube channel. For Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.